Hi everybody, I'm Trin Johnson and welcome to Dust in My Eye. Today I am going to paint this picture and I'm going to paint it twice. I have my paper divided into two and I'm going to kind of do an experiment. We made these viewfinders up at art camp and it's just a piece of red like plastic and two mat boards, and we just stuck it together. And what it does is it allows you to see the values in something. Now, I don't know how easily you can see it on camera, but it works really well when you're doing plein air because you can hold it up and look at the scene you're painting and kind of frame your painting and tell the value differences. When I'm painting from a photograph, I can do that another way also, and that would be to print the photo in black and white. So I did that also. So I have a black and white version of it, and I have a color version of it. Now I am going to paint it very simply, but I'm going to paint it on this side in color, just like it is. And then I'm going to use the black and white photograph to do something else on the other side. So I'm just going to set this aside so I can see what I'm painting. It's not anything wonderful. It's not, compositionally exciting. But I'm hoping it has enough of different values in it that I can get my point across. So let me get it sketched in here. If this is the kind of thing that sounds fun to you, then please hit that like and subscribe button. That would be wonderful. And if you want to know about future videos, hit the cute little bell. Now I'm going to just sketch this in lightly with this pencil. And honestly, I'm going to just do it twice at the same time, because I want them as similar as possible in layout. So the biggest thing that stands out is this yellow orangey colored tree right here that's kind of just a little off center. So let's get him in there. And I'm not quite in the same spot. Close enough. And then there's these pine trees here. Now, for the sake of argument, I'm not going to have quite as many. We'll just narrow it down to 3. And then there's this field that kind of comes through. And these branches that are of brush, that's at the more like the roadside. And again, I am not really worrying about getting it exact. I just want them similar. And then there's some green trees back here. Again, some firs. So just get those in. There's some deciduous trees in here. Let's just give us 1, maybe 2. Maybe we'll smush them in front of that tree a little bit. This could go over more. That's part of my problem. We'll forget about that one. And then there's just some more greens and brush over here and a little bit behind and that sort of thing. Nothing I'm going to really worry about. All right, in the sky, we have a nice big dark cloud. That's right in here. And then there's layers of clouds. That's all I'm going to do to that too. Because again, I'm not really picky about the picture. But what I've got here, let me get my photograph here. Let me get my black and white one so you can see what I'm talking about more easily. So there's some really dark trees there. That's probably the darkest thing in this painting is going to be those trees. Then there's some darks in here, kind of the other fir trees and kind of just from what's behind the trees and their shadows. And there's some not as dark in front. And then there's not as dark up here. The lightest part is the sky, where it isn't the big heavy cloud. And then followed by this field with these two little areas. And then that tree too. That's about the same. So we're going to try and paint that in local color, which means the color it actually is and appears to be. At least that's what my interpretation of it is. I'm spraying my palette. And I don't want to get real fussy, so I'm going to see if I can find a brush that's not too small and not too big that will allow me to do what I want to do. I do like a good quill. Okay, let's see if I can make it work with these two. All right, so to start, let's do our lightest colors first. So I'm going to get some sky going. I'm going to work on this side. Okay. And I just want really, really light. Because this is my lightest part, remember? I'm going to go right behind all these trees. I can even fill in the top part too. And then I'm going to come in here with some Jane's Gray that I'm adding to my cerulean. And just see if I can get that edge. And a little bit there behind the trees. It doesn't have to be perfect by any means. We want our big cloud. Now that's going to be the darkest in the sky. It's a pretty dark cloud, so it's going to be in the darker part of the, as the painting goes, a darker part of the painting. Clouds are kind of stacked. Okay, let's go with that. All right, then I'm going to work on the field. Get some yellow ochre. And now I want to neutralize it a little bit, so I'm going to try a little purple in there. because it's the opposite on the color wheel, so it should have that opposite effect, that neutralizing effect. That's a good color. It's all a grand experiment. Now there's a little bit of that color behind these branches and the brush at the edge of the field. So I'm going to just lightly go behind it. Now, if I was trying to paint a nice dreamy watercolor, I would want to get that wet into wet bleeding kind of thing going on. But that's not what my point is right now. So I'm not going to really worry about that. So I want to get some of the shadows that are in here just to make it a little more interesting. So I'm going for the burnt umber, raw umber. Or it'll be pretty boring. And a little bit down there too. And start to work on the shadow parts of that. Okay, now a little golden tree, a little brown in it. It was a very dark and gloomy kind of dull day. Not as pretty as when the sun is shining, a little more neutralized. I'm trying to get that kind of a medium tone. There's some brownish, kind of goldish tree. And one that's a little reddish in there. There's peaks of reddish around here, just a little bit kind of neutral. Maybe a little yellow, and just kind of a backdrop to what's going on in the main part of the painting. There's some green. Again, I want it more neutral. I don't want it all bright, so I add a little red to my green. Green there. Okay, now let's get our bright yellow. Tree there. I'm just putting in some of the green, neutral greeny color to act as kind of a backdrop. Let's work on some of the green in front. 2 is it's kind of muted, so I'm going to add just a little cobalt teal to it. I like to kind of softens it, and a little touch of the red again. I think this is alizarin crimson. Mix a little bit more up. This is a little darker for the next layer. A little more red in it. Now I really want to get it a darker green, so I added a little more red. I would like this to be a little drier before I try and work with that. So while that is doing that, drying, let's get our undersea green. A little bit of sap green. And I want to get these trees in. And then get these ones over here. While I'm doing that, I'm going to get the darker one down here. Some of the darker parts under here, around the side of here. It's a little darker over there. Kind of want to work around the greenery that's coming up from the top, kind of negative paint around it a little bit. Okay, I'd like to darken that up a little bit. I'd like to take this and get this front part a little bit more. Okay. Okay, I've mixed up a little sepia with a little neutral tint. No, with a little graphite gray. I always get those two mixed up, and I'm just going to come in here and get a little trunk action going on. just to help. I just want to come in and get that tree a little bit more golden orangey kind of color, because that's what it is. It's bright, but it's also this wonderful fall. It's the only one in the picture that's really showing up as fall. Okay, so that, I think, is what I wanted to show you for that one. Now let's look and see what it does when we put the red on it. Well, I can tell you that I've got good darks in front and good darks on my dark tree. What I don't like is that cloud. That cloud needs to be darker. So let's get some more of the Jane's Gray cerulean mix. Now I'm going to blend that in a little bit so I don't have this harsh line. If it blooms a little bit, I don't care about that. All right, let's see how that goes. Do I have that better? Definitely better than it was. It's that witching hour when it's not quite dinner time, but all the kitties think it is. So they just want their presence known. All right, one more try. There we go. All right, now my goal is to paint this one using a completely different palette, like wacky palette. So let me clean this off and we'll get started. Okay, so I've got everything clean again, and I'm going to try and do basically the same thing in the same general order, only like I said, not using colors that are in it, just completely wacky colors. So I'm going to be concentrating on this, and I'm probably going to speed it up so that this does not end up being ridiculously long. So just bear with me while I paint. Okay, well, let's see how I did. Get everything out of the way. That was a lot of fun. I don't know how good I got it. It was very hard to come up with colors that were not inherently the colors that I would find in that scene. So we have this one that's like that. Hope you can see it. And then we have this one. Actually, my darks are darker in this one, in the trees. That is not dark enough. Let's see if we can darken that. I might need do this. Funny how that's the same spot that got me before. It was a lot more casual because I knew it wasn't going to look like what it was supposed to look like, what it was. So it didn't, you kind of lost that need to make it real. And in doing that, it really was just trying to concentrate on the values. All right, let's see how I did now. Oh, that's way better, see? Yeah, there's some things a little different. My pink is actually lighter than the yellow. I wasn't sure what to use for that spot. I was trying to come up with something that was just totally weird and obscure, and yet it had to be an inherently lighter color. Okay, let's see if it changed. Gonna do that one first. A little better. Still just not gonna be enough, I think. It just needs that opera pink is just too pale. All right, one more time. That's a little better. A little bit better. All right. Well, I think that was kind of a fun experiment. Something I would not normally have tried. Let me peel the tape. If you squint your eyes, you can kind of see the difference. I think this was a fun little experiment to try. I think it's worthwhile. I think it makes you think really hard about what you're doing here, because you know you're going to have to repeat it over here. And I think you find out some things that you wouldn't find out about how you make color choices if you didn't do it. I think it was a useful little exercise. So I hope you enjoyed watching that. I hope it was useful to you. And if you would like to, please check out my Etsy shop where I have prints of my artwork, along with cute little monsters and other fun stuff for sale. Until next time, thank you so much for watching.